Hi, thanks for joining me. I'm naturopathic Dr. Lauren DeVille, and today I'm going to talk to you about another obstacle to cure. So I mentioned in the first video in this series that naturopathic medicine essentially believes that if you identify the obstacles to cure and you give the body what it needs to heal itself, then within reason, healing will follow. So another, in the category of obstacles to cure, this one is also about toxins in food, but I'm going to talk more specifically about the top 3 foods to not eat if you are bloated. So there are a number of other reasons why you might be bloated, but this is going to cover probably 80% of the cases that I see, and maybe not 100% cover them. There might be other things going on, but I'd say at least 80% of the patients that I see that have gas and bloating, if they avoid these things, it's going to make a huge difference in terms of symptoms. Those 3 foods are sugar in all its various forms, processed foods in general, and simple carbohydrates. Okay, so sugar and simple carbohydrates are going to be essentially the same thing, and they are going to feed yeast overgrowth. This is something that I don't know why the naturopathic world seems to think that yeast is a thing and the traditional world doesn't, but it's a microorganism that is an opportunist. So everybody has a little bit of yeast in their guts, but if you feed it, it'll grow. And if you kind of wipe out the good stuff and allow the bad stuff to repopulate and kind of fill in that free space, then it will do so. And what it eats is sugar, white carbohydrates, and yeast. So if you're eating a lot of the standard American diet, which I believe the last stat that I heard was that the average American consumes about 156 pounds of sugar per year, then you are definitely feeding those microorganisms, and that's going to make a big difference. And they then produce gas as a byproduct. So if you're bloated, that's going to be almost guaranteed. I see it so often. That's huge in terms of one of the main causes of the symptoms of bloating. Now, there are other possible causes, and some of those require more testing and investigation, but I'm saying processed foods as well, because the processed foods are where you're going to get the majority of your sugar. So it all kind of goes back to the same thing, honestly, but I'm saying sugar is its own category, because if you're adding sugar to what you're eating, or if you're doing things where you know they're full of sugar, like ice cream, cookies, that type of stuff, then that's certainly going to contribute. Processed foods are going to have those small amounts of sugar that are going to sneak in here and there. And then the simple carbohydrates, which are going to be usually simple grains like breads and pastas and those sorts of things, those are going to turn into sugar as soon as they hit your saliva, and they're going to feed the organism also. So you're going to be essentially getting it in multiple different ways. Now, I have had some patients where they've done this and it really doesn't make a huge difference, but they're rare. Most people who do this, if you have bloating, this is at least part of your problem most of the time. So make sure you are greatly minimizing or cutting out the sugar, the processed foods, and the simple carbohydrates. All right? So join me in the next video for another obstacle to cure. Thanks for joining me.